Okay, for this file, we're going to be dealing with the Reforlation app. So you're going to go in your list of files, click on the Reforlation, hit run. Minimize that. And this is going to be the main area where you're going to deal with your actual transcription, translation, and producing those via API, Batch API. When you go in, you will see an API key. This will only work with an Anthropic Claude API key. So say you're in Google, you just go to the Claude Developer Platform. You'll log in or register. Once you're in, you'll go to Settings. And once you're in Settings, you can go to Billing. And this is where you will purchase credits for your API calls. And then this is where you will also get an API key. Once you have an API key, you can store that somewhere safe. And then in here, you'll go ahead and enter your API key. And then it'll be around 108 characters. And that lets you know that your API key is in there. In the document info, this is where you're going to put the title of the work that you're doing. So say I'm going to use the transcription or the file images for a Voetis work. So I'll just do Voet best, and I'll just give that for a title. And then the author, I'll put source language, Latin, target language, English. This is gonna let the call know what language it is and what target language you're trying to translate it in. For the transcription section, you're gonna see an image folder, and you're gonna go ahead and browse for your folder of images to be transcribed. I already got a folder of images right here, so I'm going to go ahead and select those. If you're not translating if you're just transcribing and not at the stage of translating yet, you won't need to list or you won't need to upload the chunk folder. That's going to be your post-transcription process, or your post transcription editing chunking process. But when you go to do that, this is where you will upload that folder. Now, each run needs a work directory. This is going to be the middleman, so to speak, between your API call and your exported text. So we're going to have to create one. So let's browse. We'll go into ref test project, create a new folder, and we'll just say translation work directory. And that'll be our work directory. And now we have to create an export directory. So we'll create an export. So we'll say transcription export. Transcription export, excuse me. Gotta create a new folder, transcription export. Now I don't like the name of that folder. translation work directory, because this is going to be a transcription process. So I'm going to put transcription instead. Get out of that, go back in my folder, browse, transcription, select folder, and that will update the folder. Underneath this, you'll find an area where you can normalize the long S's in your transcriptions. This process is generally used because with Anthropic, it's going to transcribe it exactly as it sees it. The tag Hebrew and Greek with HG is a process that I personally use because I don't know Hebrew or Greek, and also I don't want the fallibility of the API transcription that doesn't quite deal with old Greek ligatures or Hebrew fonts as well as it does with the Latin script. I don't want that to misconstrue in a translation, so I would rather have those removed from the text, but this gives you the option to select it or not select it. I'm going to go ahead and select it. And then in your export formats, it's going to allow you to export transcription and translation. So that would be transcription on top, translation on the bottom. Transcription only, which would export with just the transcription and translation only. Or you can select all three. For this particular function, since I'm just doing a transcription, I'm gonna just choose transcription only. Because if I choose transcription and translation, then it's going to give me the transcription, but the bottom is just going to be blank because there is no translation in this process. And then the file types it's going to export is in text in DOC. Right here, you're going to get an estimated cost of the Batch API. It's going to let you know, okay, we're transcribing 10 pages, estimated at 41 cents. And then it's going to let you know, since it's a Batch API pricing, it's 50% off. This is going to give you the option to transcribe only, which I'm doing. Translate only, and that will go ahead, that will be up here like when you do the chunk folder after you have your transcription, you're only going to need to translate. And then this is going to give you the option to transcribe and translate at the same time. Some people may want to do the transcription and translation in one process for a page-by-page quick translation of a text. And they may not want to edit the chunks, and this will enable that. And then the export work from directory will be, say you have your directory already of your transcriptions or your translations, and you just want to export them in a different type of format, say transcription, translation on top, transcription only, translation only, and you don't have those, you can re-export those. But since I'm going to transcribe only, I'm going to go ahead and hit transcribe only. And this is going to bring up your progress field. With Claude Opus Batch API, the reason why you get a reduced price for the Batch API is because technically Claude Opus has 24 to 48 hours to get to your call. That's the difference between running locally. When you run an API locally, it has to automatically push that through, and the time can be much slower compared to the Batch API. Now, even though they say they have 24 to 48 hours, I've never found them to go over 10 minutes our 30 minutes. Even if it's a 1,300 page book, it's still done in less than an hour. So we'll see how long this takes um, just for our purposes right here. I'm estimating that it won't take long at all. And every 60 seconds, it's going to go through and let you know that it's sitting in order to be called for the work to be done. Now, just as a side note, when you have these, and say you have a book that's, or you have a book that's 1,000 pages that you want to transcribe, it's going to break those images up into 100 segment batches so that it can push a call through 100 pages or 100 images at a time. If not, the batch will reject it because it only allows a certain amount of file size per call. This is the reason why we're converting those images into black and white and trying to keep them as low file size as we can while we're doing it. And you really don't have to do anything here while it's processing this. It's going to let you know when it's done. And you'll see right here polling. I believe that's what it's called, where it's just waiting its turn to get pushed through Anthropic's servers. And this is going to let you know that the transcription is complete. So we'll click OK. And then we'll go down. Look at our export, transcription export. And these are the different files it's going to give you. So it's going to give you a zip of the transcription zip. It's going to give you a zip of the export, and then it's going to give you the text of all the transcriptions, and then it's going to give you a folder of the actual transcribed text. So we see the transcribed text here. We see the markers, the H and G markers. So say I have my transcribed text now, and say that I chunked it, and say that now I want a translation. Well, I'll go in here and browse. For my text and just say that's my chunk folder. I'll select that folder. In my work directory. I'm gonna cancel this and see what it looks like in the work directory. I believe it creates a separate folder. Yes, so we have our separate folder for the transcription. So we can go ahead and keep that same work directory. The export directory, I'm going to go ahead and create a translation export. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit translation only. And then it's going to go ahead and run that call. And now that you have that chunked folder, or now that you have the transcription, this would be the time if you wanted to hit a transcription and translation only export. But for this purpose, I'm only going to do translation only. Now remember, when this translates, that it's not going to be as clean as if we put it in the editor, the transcriptions in the editor, and cleaned all the text up. This is going to be basically like if you did it page by page. We'll see how long this takes. This shouldn't take too long. Now again, they say they have 24 to 48 hours, but I've never seen them take anywhere close to that long. And okay, now we'll go ahead and check and see how our translation did. So if you click in here, you'll see the text completely translated. And if I'm not mistaken, I think now if you'll go in here to your work directory and you browse, this should have the transcription in the JON or JSON. So I can export that transcription and translation. Select an export directory. So we'll create a new folder and say I want to do bilingual doc. Select folder. If I go in here, you will see that you have and this says right here, this cluttered stuff, this is because in the original facsimiles, those are the blank pages. But when you start getting into the text, this will be your original transcript. This will be your translation, your original transcript, and your original translation. And you can see right here, remember when I said the asterisks in one of the earlier videos is the thing that preserves the italics and bold. When you go into a Word document, you'll be able to see that when it processes it, it's going to process it in italics and in bold if it does preserve it. But not everybody is worried about preserving the italics. So that is how you use that.